The North Sea in winter is a realm of steel-grey waves and freezing spray, a place most would never dare to cross. The wind howls relentlessly, and the cold bites through even the thickest layers. For most, these waters represented the edge of the known world, a boundary marked by danger and uncertainty. Yet for the Vikings, this was not a barrier, but a highway. The sea was their open road, connecting distant lands and new opportunities. Where others saw peril, the Norse saw possibility. They thrived not through brute force, but by adapting to the sea's formidable rhythm. Every journey was a test of skill, patience, and respect for the ocean's power. Their survival was built on a deep, almost spiritual connection to their environment. The Vikings believed the sea was alive, filled with gods and spirits that demanded reverence and understanding. Vikings mastered the properties of wood, wool, and leather, reading the sky and sea with expert eyes. They crafted their ships and clothing to withstand the harshest elements, always learning from nature's cues. They didn't fight the cold, they danced with it, bending with the wind and flowing with the water. Their teamwork and resilience allowed them to face storms that would have crushed lesser crews. From childhood, Norse people learned practical skills, the feel of an axe, the character of timber, the secrets of wool. These lessons were passed down through generations, shaping a culture of resourcefulness and ingenuity. Survival was daily life, not a gamble. Every task, from building homes to preparing for winter, was a matter of life and death, demanding constant vigilance and cooperation. When they set out, they carried a profound body of knowledge, not just courage. Navigation, weather lore, and the wisdom of their ancestors guided them across the open sea. The story of Viking seafaring is one of intelligence and adaptation, not just heroics. Their success was built on careful planning, innovation, and a willingness to learn from every voyage. They turned harsh conditions into strengths, crafting ships and strategies perfectly attuned to their world. Every plank and sail was a testament to their ingenuity and determination. The Vikings mastered the frozen seas by listening to nature and using its wisdom to find their way. Their legacy endures as a story of people who embraced the unknown and let the sea shape their destiny. The Viking longship was a marvel of survival technology, strong, flexible, and perfectly suited to the northern seas. Built with overlapping planks, it flexed with the waves, absorbing their power instead of breaking. Its shallow draft allowed navigation of both open ocean and shallow rivers, offering shelter when needed. The high prow and stern cut through waves, while the single square sail and oars gave control in any weather. Every detail, from the mast to the storage chests, was designed for efficiency and protection. The longship was more than a vessel. It was a wooden sanctuary, the heart of Viking life at sea. Shipbuilders were artists and engineers, creating a tool honed by centuries of survival. A Viking's first defense against the cold was wool, nature's own survival fabric. Rich in lanolin, Viking wool was water-resistant and insulating, even when wet. Their clothing system relied on intelligent layering, soft wool next to the skin, heavier wool above, and a cloak or oiled leather for the outer shield. This allowed them to adapt to changing activity and weather, shedding layers to avoid sweat and adding them to trap heat. Footwear and headwear, wool socks, fur-lined shoes and hats left no skin exposed. Every garment was a product of their environment, turning natural resources into survival tools. Vikings managed their clothing like a personal climate system, always adjusting for warmth and dryness. Their mastery of materials made their clothing a wearable shelter. On long voyages, Vikings transformed their open ships into floating shelters. They erected a tjald, a tent-like awning of heavy wool or leather, over the deck, creating a communal refuge from wind and snow. Straw or hay insulated the deck, topped with furs and sheepskin sleeping bags for warmth. Each Viking had a personal sleeping system, fur-lined bags and wool cloaks, trapping heat even in freezing temperatures. The entire setup was portable and efficient, packed away each morning and redeployed each night. Sea chests doubled as seats and storage, maximizing every inch of space. Nothing was wasted. Every item had multiple uses. This flexible shelter system let Vikings rest and recover, ready for another day at sea. Survival at sea was a delicate balance of energy, generating heat through constant activity but always careful not to overheat or become drenched in sweat. The cold could be merciless, and the line between warmth and danger was razor-thin. Rowing was the ship's heartbeat, a steady rhythm that kept the crew warm with sustainable effort. Each pull of the oar was both a necessity and a ritual, uniting the crew in purpose and keeping the chill at bay. They paced themselves with discipline, knowing that exhaustion and sweat could be deadly in the biting cold. Rest was as important as exertion, and the crew learned to listen to their bodies, adjusting their efforts to the demands of the sea and weather. When the sail was up and the oars rested, layered clothing and shared body heat under the protective chald became vital. Woolen cloaks, thick tunics, and the warmth of companions shielded them from icy winds and freezing spray. Voyages were timed for the safer seasons when the sea was less treacherous. But when necessity forced winter travel, preparation was everything. Every layer, every tool, and every plan could mean the difference between life and death. From childhood, young Vikings learned to read the sea, the sky, and their own limits. They watched the waves, studied the clouds, and listened to the stories of elders, absorbing the knowledge needed to survive. By the time they joined a voyage, they were already experts in survival, trained in the skills and instincts that would keep them alive on the open water. Careful planning, teamwork, and lifelong training powered their endurance. Every journey was a test of preparation, and every crew member played a vital role in the ship's survival. The Vikings' invisible engine was their deep knowledge and discipline, passed down through generations and honed by experience. They survived not by chance, but by mastering the rhythm of the sea and their own bodies, turning hardship into strength and the wild ocean into a path for adventure. Perhaps most astonishing, Vikings sailed without fire. On a wooden-tarred ship, open flames were too dangerous. The risk of disaster outweighed the comfort of warmth. This meant cold food, dried fish, cured meats, hard cheese, and biscuits, all chosen for energy and preservation. Water and weak ale were stored in casks, fueling the crew's internal fires. Without a hearth, their clothing and communal shelter became their only defense against the cold. Shared body heat under the chald replaced the warmth of a fire, forging strong bonds of teamwork. The Vikings' fireless existence was a triumph of adaptation, solving problems with ingenuity, not confrontation. They turned necessity into strength, relying on each other and their environment to survive. The Viking ethos was not about conquering nature, but living in harmony with it. Their worldview was shaped by the harsh, unpredictable Nordic environment where survival depended on understanding the land, sea, and sky. Rather than seeing themselves as rulers over nature, Vikings saw themselves as a part of its endless cycles. They respected the sea and weather, learning to read and adapt to their moods. Every journey began with careful observation of the winds and tides, and a deep reverence for the forces that could both sustain and destroy. This philosophy shaped everything, from shipbuilding, which worked with the wood's natural strengths, to navigation by sun, stars, and sea signs. Their craftsmanship was guided by a respect for the materials, using what the forests and coasts provided, never taking more than needed. Viking navigators were masters of observation, using every clue from the environment to guide their way. They watched the flight of birds, the color of the water, and the shape of the clouds, piecing together a map written by nature itself. Their survival depended on humility and respect for nature's power. They knew that arrogance could be fatal, and that only those who listened to the world around them would endure. They knew their place in a vast world, drawing strength from adaptation, not opposition. This mindset allowed them to thrive in some of the most challenging environments on Earth. The longship itself was a symbol of this partnership, flexible, resilient, and attuned to the sea. Its design reflected centuries of accumulated wisdom, perfectly suited to the demands of the northern waters. By working with the elements, not against them, Vikings found their path through the frozen waves. Their journeys were a testament to the power of cooperation with nature, not domination. Their deep knowledge and respect for nature was the true secret of their mastery. It was this philosophy of balance, humility, and adaptation that allowed the Vikings to leave such a lasting mark on history. In our world of technology, it's easy to overlook the wisdom of the Vikings. Their survival teaches us the value of preparation, deep knowledge of materials, and the power of simplicity. They remind us that resilience is mental and social, not just physical. Endurance comes from teamwork and adaptability. The Vikings adapted to their world rather than trying to dominate it. Their flexible, observant approach is a lesson for any age. True mastery comes from understanding and respect, not force. The echoes of the longship remind us, adaptation is the art of survival.